afternoon. Happy Saturday. Bankster DFS.com presents Bankster University's Cash Game Musing for Week 11. I am Doug Shain. Find me on YouTube at Doug Shain. On Twitter, Bankster17. You can find all of our work, mine, the team, everybody's, BanksterDFS.com. $3.99 a week gets you access to all the content that we produce for articles and player pools and the best Slack chat in the business for every sport that we cover, and we cover them all. Just $3.99 a week, BanksterDFS.com. So this week we're going to take a look at where we're at for cash. I wrote my Moving the Chains article, and haven't read that and taken a look at that. We should have an idea of where we're at for cash this week, or at least where I was when the cash game, when we first started with the cash games. And here's where I was. This was where I was at for cash, and I was pretty comfortable with this for cash. Deshaun Watson feels like a real safe play at quarterback this week, going up against the Patriots. Patriots aren't as good as they've been in the past. Deshaun Watson has been fantastic since Bill O'Brien got fired. If you take out last week's wind game, because that was stupid, he's averaged, he's had 23.9 or more points in, 5 of the last 6 games. Passing yards have been there, 300 yards or more for the last 5. If you take out the wind game, he's rushing quite a bit more, 25 rushes over the last 3 weeks. That is nice upside, 20 or more rushing yards. Quite a number of weeks in a row, 6 weeks in a row. So Deshaun Watson just feels safe. $6,500 is a little low for him. He feels like a $7,200, $7,300 guy to me. So for this price, I feel really comfortable with Watson as my cash game quarterback. Kamara, remember, I created this lineup originally because you see, DeAndre Swift, he's out. This is, it's the original lineup we went with. And, because we got to see where the pivots come in. Kamara, felt safe with Jameis Winston most likely starting a quarterback. Dump-offs would be there. The volume would be there. Clearly, a lot of that's changed now with Taysom Hill maybe being the starter. We'll talk about that in a minute. But Kamara felt like a safe play. Dalvin Cook, slam dunk, lock button, not getting off him. Dallas, terrible against the rush. Minnesota, home favorite. Cook's going to get over 20 carries or 20 touches. Goal line work. Just should be in line for a really strong game. Brandon Cooks I had in there simply because as Watson has improved and has played well without O'Brien, so is Brandon Cooks. He wasn't my favorite target for cash games, but he wasn't a bad option either because of that volume. 12, 9, 9, 9, and 8. So in the 5 games, it's no less than 8 targets. Is produced most every week. Felt really good, especially if you got Stephon Gilmore covering Will Fuller. That should open up some work for Cooks. And at $5,200, he doesn't need a huge game to pay off. I like Pittman simply because Pittman's been getting the work the last couple weeks. 15 targets over the last 2 weeks. If this catch rate goes up a little bit to 6 catches for 70 yards, if he catches 6 of the 7 passes, you're looking at 13 points. We only need 13.5 to hit cash, to hit 3x value, and I'll take 13. 13's fine. If he gets in the end zone, you're looking at 19, 20 points. Decent opportunity. Again, if Jair Alexander is covering T.Y. Hilton or Zach Pascal, then Pittman should be in really good shape. Now, if we hear that Jair's going to cover Pittman, maybe we pivot off of this. But for now, we're pretty good with Pittman. Jakeem Grant's a guy who I really like for Miami. He's, gets a decent volume of targets since Preston Williams been out. 5 targets each game, runs back kicks. Doesn't need to do a lot to get us value, just about 10 points. He got there last week with his touchdown. There's a little concern because of his ADOT's pretty low, but he can also break one. He's a quick guy in the slot and can put up some points. And at $3,500, if he gives me 7 points, I'm not upset when he needs 10.5. If he gives me 7, I should feel okay with that. Logan Thomas, it's been really good since Alex Smith has taken over. Back-to-back 300-yard games for Alex Smith. Logan Thomas has one of the higher ADOTs for tight ends, tons of end zone and red zone targets. Has 11 targets over the last 2 weeks. Has produced 10 or more points 3 of the last 4 weeks. Only needs 9.9 points to hit value. I'm perfectly comfortable with Logan Thomas. He's pretty much locked in. Him and Dalvin Cook are pretty much locks in my lineup just because the price point for Thomas makes a lot of sense. I love DeAndre Swift. We don't want to get too deep into it, but everyone loves Swift against Carolina. Looked like he was going to get all the work, passing game work. It was a clear shot for 20 touches, so I'm a little disappointed there. And the Falcons defense, they're not a great defense. They don't pressure the quarterback the way I want them to, but with Jameis Winston under center for the Saints, you want to go against Winston. We like going against Winston. He throws a lot of interceptions, a lot of pick sixes, and the Falcons have been okay as a defense. 2 or more points in all, but 3 games this year. Sorry, they've been really good in that respect. The last 4 weeks, they've gotten to the quarterback a little bit more. But again, the Taysom Hill elephant in the room has come in and really changed a lot of things. First of all, do we use Taysom Hill at quarterback? $4,800 for Taysom Hill is a really sweet price. That's a really good price for a quarterback. To get 3x, he just needs 15 points. But here's what he needs to do to get to 4x when you really think about it. If Taysom Hill rushes for 50 yards, which is reasonable, all things considered, and he's gotten 30 or more rushing yards each of the last 3 weeks anyway. So 50 yards as the starter getting all the snaps seems really reasonable. So 50 yards rushing, 120 yards pass, 125 yards passing. That's not a lot of passing yards, right? Even if he gets 20 attempts, you're talking, he needs not a lot. He completes 12 of them. 120 is not the most unreasonable number, especially if he's dumping some of those off to Kamara, who can get some yards after the catch. Not a horrible number. So 125 passing, 50 rushing, touchdown on the ground, touchdown through the air. That is 20 fantasy points. 20 fantasy points is 4x. That's a good number. That's very attainable. I just don't trust that Taysom Hill is actually going to get all the snaps. Sean Payton's now saying he refuses to announce a starter. As of recording, as you can see, it's 1 o'clock on the West Coast on Saturday. On Saturday. So, I don't trust that Jameis Winston won't get snaps. I really don't. Which keeps the Falcons in play for me. It doesn't make them a slam dunk, but it definitely keeps them in play for me. And Taysom Hill makes some poor decisions, fumbles quite a bit. So Falcons are still in play, although I think there's some other defenses we could talk about. But the one play I'm really worried about is Alvin Kamara. If Taysom Hill's going to get more snaps, Taysom Hill's going to probably take more carries, get some goal line work. Is Kamara going to get the volume that we need to get to 27 points? Because that's what we really need at him. If he gets 22, 23 points, I'm not going to cry about it. But he really needs to, 27 is that 3x. But is he going to get that volume? Let's think about these numbers. If he gets 8 catches for 60 yards, that's 14 fantasy points. If he scores a touchdown, that's 20. He still needs 70 yards rushing or another touchdown in order to hit value. Is he going to get there? I don't know. He had 3 touchdowns last week, and he didn't have a ton of volume. He got there on touchdowns, and I don't like to rely on my cash games on touchdowns. I think that's a dangerous game you're playing. I want to get there on volume. Well, on volume last week, he had 15, 16 points. All right, let's say he gets 1 touchdown. We can safely project 1 touchdown a week for Kamara. He won't always get to the 1, but he'll have weeks with 3. So if we say 1 a week, that's 22 points. 22 points is not 27 points. But on a week where I think running back is a little suspect for cash, I'm not so sure 22 points isn't a horrible thing to shoot for Kamara with that upside for 30, 35 points. He's had 34 points, 47 points, 38 points, but he's also had a lot of games under 27. But again, if he gets 25, 22, I'm not crying. So then I started to play around with my lineup a little bit because we've got the Taysom situation. So let's say we pull Taysom Hill into our cash game lineup. Let's say we feel that 20 points is reasonable. And if I felt he was going to get all the snaps, I'd feel very comfortable with Taysom Hill as my quarterback. I just don't know if he's going to get there. If Taysom Hill's my quarterback, I'm not using Alvin Kamara. And we can't use DeAndre Swift. I got a lot of money left over. Well, what can I do with that money? There's a lot of running back options there. A lot of running back options here. Derrick Henry, Aaron Jones, Nick Chubb, Miles Sanders, Mike Davis. They're all in decent spots. I just don't know if I trust them for cash. I worry about Henry in cash. I love him for tournaments this week. He's probably my top tournament running back because, who else has the greater probability of going 150 yards and 2 touchdowns than Derrick Henry? Nobody. And the Baltimore Ravens are really bad against the run. You beat them on the ground. 112 or more rushing yards allowed 3 of the last 4 games, and Tennessee is going to pound the ball. But if Derrick Henry gets 100 yards and a touchdown, that's 19 points because he's not getting anything in the passing game. He needs 120 yards, which is 15 points, and 2 touchdowns, really. He really needs 2 touchdowns and 120 yards. To me, I don't want to have to rely on that in cash. In order to get the 24 points we need, even 20, he doesn't get there that often. He's been over 20 points 3 times all year. He can bust you 45 points, but he can also get you 8, 6. I mean, like last week, he had 100 yards, under 15 points. That's not going to get there in cash. But because of the blow-up potential, I'll use him in tournaments, won't touch him in cash. Aaron Jones, the volume's not there for me in cash. Nick Chubb is similar to Derrick Henry. He has to score in order to hit value to get those 21 points. He's done that in 3 of his starts this year. But he doesn't catch any passes also, and I just don't know how I feel about that. All right, so let's move down to Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders burned us last week, and for some reason the Eagles just don't want to get him in the end zone. If he scores each of the last 2 times he played, he hits value. But is he going to? Cleveland is not great against the run. Myles Garrett isn't in there. They're really not good against the run. But Wentz likes to scramble around. They love to give the ball to Boston Scott, and every once in a while they're going to troll us with Corey Clement. It's not like Miles Sanders is giving us Dalvin Cook levels of touchdowns. He's not giving us Nick Chubb levels of touchdowns. And he's not getting enough of a target volume where I feel like that's going to pull up that floor. If he's getting 7 or 8 targets a week, I feel a little bit better about that. But 4, 2, 2, 5, I mean, he's got the first 2 games he was there. But the last 4 games he's played, he hasn't been there. I just don't know how I feel about that. Not sure I can trust him in cash. That brings us to Mike Davis. Mike Davis has been terrible the last 4 weeks. Mike Davis over the last 4 weeks has as many points, or less points actually, than Christian McCaffrey had in the 1 game he played. Now, if I were to get weeks 3, 4, and 5 Mike Davis, I'd feel really good at 6,800 against the Lions. The Lions are terrible against the rush, and they're really bad inside the 5. Mike Davis has really high touchdown equity this week, but it's that usage. I mean, he had a great matchup against Atlanta. He didn't do anything with it. He didn't have a terrible matchup against New Orleans. He didn't do anything with it. Target volume is there, but that ADOT is low. P.J. Walker's probably starting at quarterback, and I loved him in the XFL, but is he NFL ready? I don't know. So that question marks makes Davis a problem. James Conner, love him in a tournament as leverage against the Pittsburgh passing stack. Not sure I can trust him in a cash game. I'm not using Kareem Hunt in cash. I don't trust Elliott in cash, so I think he's tournament ready. This entire area of running back is a problem. So that brings us to Gio Bernard. I think Gio Bernard has a bounce back this week, but Aguda brought it up on the live stream last night. There's some concern about Samaje Perine taking his touches. Trayvon Williams had some carries last week, but that was after the blowout happened. But Perine has almost 20 touches over the last 2 weeks. If he's going to eat into Giovanni Bernard's workload, that's not good against the Washington defense. That's pretty good against the run. I don't trust Duke Johnson. J.D. McKissick is in play for me, but because he's got that target volume. 29 targets the last couple of weeks. Alex Smith loves him, and he can get to this 15 points on volume alone. He really can. But I've already got Logan Thomas in my lineup, and if I'm going to spend up at receiver, as we're about to talk about, if you look over here on the right-hand side, I've got Terry McLaurin as a real strong play. I'm not playing McLaurin and McKissick and Logan Thomas. I just think that's a little bit of overkill. So that brings us down to one more player, and it's one that Guda brought up to me yesterday, and it's Adrian Peterson going against the Carolina Panthers. If we like DeAndre Swift, Peterson has the same good matchup. The problem is Peterson's not going to catch any passes. Maybe he catches 2, but at $4,000, Adrian Peterson needs to get us to 60 yards and a touchdown. Very reasonable, but we do need that touchdown. Super high touchdown equity against Carolina. But how do I feel about him in cash? I'm not so sure. And just one more name, and I've tried to avoid saying it, but I actually think if we take names out of it and we look at numbers, we look at matchup, there's one more name, and I think he's a good play. I think he's going to end up in my cash lineup, and it's Kalen Ballage. Kalen Ballage going up against the Jets. There's a little bit of a revenge game. Now, Ballage shouldn't hate Gase because Gase loves Ballage. Gase loves Ballage in the way that Sean Payton loves Taysom Hill. But Jets got rid of him. He's going to want to show them that, he's worthy of being used more. And over the last 2 weeks, he has been used really well. It looks like Anthony likes him and trusts him and should get the lion's share of the work against the Jets defense that doesn't do well against the run. I mean, look, 33 carries over 2 weeks, 9 targets. That's quite a bit of volume. He should be priced the same spot right now as Ezekiel Elliott. If you take the names out of it, Kalen Ballage has looked a lot more like Ezekiel Elliott the last month than Ezekiel Elliott has. And we're getting him for $5,600. And let's just pull up that Jets defense. I mean, if you look at the Jets, they've given up 100 yards rushing a lot this year. Every game but 2. And one of those games was 98 yards rushing. And the other one was against a Kansas City team that threw for nearly 450 yards against them. The Jets suck against the run. So Kalen Ballage goes in there. Okay, cool. Let's say I'm down with Kalen Ballage. I think he's a pretty well – it's Kalen Ballage, but we're going to put him in that cash lineup for right now. All right, and then what else are we going to do at running back? If we're not using Kamara, we did say that Peterson, right, was a guy that we want to take a look at. So we're saving money with Taysom Hill, right? This is all going back to what do we do if we put Taysom Hill into our lineup? If I'm saving money with Taysom Hill, but I'm spending down from Ballage because I'm getting rid of Kamara, and I'm spending down to Peterson, where am I going to spend that money? Well, let's see what we do at run. Let's see what we do at receiver. I love Keenan Allen. Love Terry McLaurin. Leaves me quite a bit of money for Deontay Johnson, who I also love. That's cool. And we got a little bit of money left over. We got $800 we can play with defense. We can just move our defense up here. I don't love spending up for defense, but shoot, might as well, right? Browns defense, or really I like the Washington football team defense going up against Joe Burrow, who's not very good against pressure. Burrow's a good quarterback, but last week he was pressured 14 times and went 0 for 14. I mean, he gets sacked a ton. This is a decent lineup, but let's look at what I've got here. 1, 2, 3 Washington players. 1, 2 Chargers players. I don't want to do that. I don't like stacking in cash if I can avoid it, particularly running back, receiver, or receiver even. I don't mind throwing Washington in there with Logan Thomas or Terry McLaurin. I just can't do that. And the problem is, where else am I going to spend up? I don't like any of the other receivers for cash. I'm not using Adams in cash, especially if Xavier Rhodes is going to be on him. And $8,600, he could blow up. But I just think that's a little expensive. I love him in a tournament. I don't love him for cash. Julio, no. Michael Thomas, no. I don't love the high-end receivers. Thielen is great. Thielen should be fine against Dallas, but I've already used Dalvin Cook. Again, I'm not stacking. Claypool, okay, Claypool's fine if you want to use him over Deontay Johnson. That's $200 there, but that doesn't get rid of our Allen McLaurin issue. So I don't know if we need Taysom Hill. And because I have that little bit of mistrust for Taysom Hill, let's go back to Deshaun Watson. Well, now I got to get rid of $1,500. Well, we go back to the running back issue, the receiver issue. McLaurin, Johnson can go away. Again, we talked about using Brandon Cooks. Great. We talked about using, I like Jacoby Myers. He's been really good this year. Myers has gotten quite a bit of work since Edelman went out. I mean, he's got 37 targets over the last 4 weeks. And that San Francisco game was weird, but these last 3 weeks have been ridiculously good. And he only needs 15 points in a game that, quite frankly, the Patriots may have to throw to keep up with Houston's. I think Houston's going to be fine offensively in the passing game. I still got $2,700 left over. So what do I do with that $2,700? No, I could probably get rid of Adrian Peterson. I can now move up at running back. I've got Kareem Hunt. I can get off Washington here. That allows me now to, if I go back down to Atlanta or, Denver or whatever it is, I like Denver because they pressure the quarterback. That could be $7,300. And now I can play around a little bit at $7,300. You got, Nick Chubb, Miles Sanders. They're all viable. Let's just say Sanders. Not going to end up going with Sanders, but let's say Sanders. Falcons. I can go back up to, whatever in the mid range. It doesn't matter. Denver. It's not $300 left over. It's not a bad cash lineup, but one of the things that's gotten me in trouble over the last few weeks in cash, and I've cashed. We cashed plenty this year. We've had a couple of rough cash weeks. For the most part, we really want to, I want to make sure that I'm honing in on my cash lineups and honing in on my strategy. And one of the things that I have discovered through talking to people, I've got friends we talk to. One of my good friends, Steve, and I talk all the time about cash lineups, and he's like my conscience. He's like Jiminy Cricket on my shoulder, saying, "Hey, dummy, play the best players, play your guys, and go to your pool and fill in the rest of your lineup. Make sure you get your guys." Well, I'm scared to not use Alvin Kamara because that upside is there. How dumb would we look if Kamara does what Kamara does? If Taysom Hill ends up dumping the ball off to him 8 to 10 times, if he gets goal line carries because defenses are trying to focus in on what Taysom Hill's doing, and he just pitches the ball to Kamara, and he gets 2 touchdowns. He gets 100 total yards. Well, that's 22 points plus 6-7 catches. You're talking 30 points. How dumb do we look if we're playing Mike Davis or Adrian Peterson when we could be playing Alvin Kamara? And to me, Alvin Kamara is one of my guys then. I don't think I can pass on him in cash. Well, who else? Who else are my guys? So let's build this way. Well, I want Deshaun Watson. We kind of worked it out where I don't trust many of the other quarterbacks here. If we look, I like Jackson for a tournament. I think Rodgers and Herbert and Roethlisberger are fine for tournaments, but a little expensive for cash in this respect. And I like Watson's rushing ability. I think Newton could be okay. He just doesn't pass enough. He has over 200 passing yards, like 3 games. He only has 3 games with 1 touchdown pass and a bunch of games with 0. We're counting on Newton to run for touchdowns, and I don't want to have to count on that because Watson is going to throw. So Watson's kind of locked in as my quarterback. So I'm not going to go all the way down to Taysom Hill because I don't think we have to. Kamara is one of my guys. Dalvin Cook is one of my guys. And I said it, and I hate myself for it. But if you take the name out of it, Kalen Ballage is one of my guys this week. I feel like Kalen Ballage, as long as Anthony Lynn uses him the way he's been using him, and there's no reason not to. Jackson's on IR. Josh Kelly's fallen out of favor, and Tremaine Pope just can't do what Ballage can do. Ballage is a decent player. If you watched him in college, he has a nose for the end zone. He runs smoothly. He hits the hole well, catches passes decently. The numbers are there. 17 touches, 23 touches. I mean, the yards, what's that, 100 yards, 80-something yards, got in the end zone, 16, 15 points, gets in the end zone. Last week, it's over 20 points. And the Jets are terrible. I think Ballage is one of my guys. I think I got to have him. All right, we've already said Logan Thomas is one of my guys. Awesome. And I like to have Denver as one of my guys, but I think we're going to have to play with that a little bit because I'm never going to lock in a defense above a player. And Deontay Johnson is one of my guys. I just think the volume is there. When he plays a whole game, he gets 10 targets. He's played 5 full games, week 10, week 9, week 7, weeks 1 and 2. 10, 13, 15, 10, and 11. He doesn't have the upside of Chase Claypool, but he does have stability that Chase Claypool is starting to get but doesn't have yet. Okay, so where does that leave me? Well, I like Michael Pittman. As long as Jair Alexander isn't going to be, locked in on him all game, I've been on Pittman all week, and I'm not ready to get off of Pittman at this point. I don't think that Pittman is a guy I'm ready to get off of. The target volume's there, and I think he's only going to get better. That's the thing about Pittman. I think this is kind of where he is right now. Maybe you don't get the 100 yards. Maybe you get 80 yards. 7 catches for 80 yards. That's 15 points. We're gold. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with his, as long as he keeps getting the volume. And why wouldn't he? Why wouldn't he? He's a talented young receiver. They drafted him high. They want to use him. He's clearly looking better than T.Y. Hilton. Rivers, wants to get the ball to him, and he's got moves in the open field. If you watch that game, this last game that they played, he was able to shake defenders. He was able to get down the field, and he was able to make plays in the open field, and I like that about Pittman. Extra yards are great. So that leaves me with $3,600 for a receiver. I have 3 players in that range. One of them we can't afford currently, which is Michael Gallup. I like Michael Gallup this week. Michael Gallup's been getting targets. 7, 12, 6. He has that one game with 2 targets, but other than that, it's been 4 or more in every game, 5 or more in all but 2 games. Andy Dalton's coming back. Minnesota's got a weak passing defense, and Dallas is going to have to throw in this game because Minnesota's probably going to pound the ball, put the scores up. Minnesota's a good offense. Their record does not indicate how good of a team that they are. Kirk Cousins and the passing game looks really good, especially downfield. Dallas secondary is terrible. They give up a ton of yards, and Dalvin Cook's going to put up points as well. So Gallup's gonna see some targets, and at $3,700, he doesn't need to do much. He needs 11 points to hit value. So I feel really good about Gallup, but I don't have enough money for Gallup, so that gives me Hamler. I also happen to like Hamler, and if Drew Lock was playing, I'd be much more comfortable with Hamler, but it's probably going to be Brett Rippon. Miami defense is pretty good. Their pass defense is pretty good. Now, if they key on Jerry Jeudy, that leaves a lot for Hamler, and those two weeks back-to-back of 10 targets is really good. But Las Vegas and Atlanta are way worse against the pass than Miami. I just don't know if I'm willing to put that trust in Hamler against a better Miami defense with Brett Rippon at quarterback, who may actually not be any worse than Drew Lock. Drew Lock's not great. But I prefer Hamler more specifically because of his downfield speed. I prefer him more as a GPP option, as a one-off kind of a GPP than as a cash game player. So that brings me back to Jakeem Grant. I like Jakeem Grant. Jakeem Grant's got those 5 targets each of the last 2 weeks. He gets a lower ADOT than Hamler, so they're more convertible, the passes. And he's got a better quarterback. Tua's looked great. But you beat Denver on the ground. And Ahmed's looked really good for Miami. Tua can run a little bit. Matt Breida is coming back for them. They're going to have to pass a lot. Is this going to be more of a defensive struggle? And then I'm looking here and I'm like, I'm going to run Miami against Denver here, which I don't care about generally because Grant, while he scores, is going to hurt Denver. Denver's not getting a shutout. So if I come off of Denver, is that really going to kill me? Yeah, I'm using them for the upside of the pass rush. But we also said that there is the opportunity for Taysom Hill to make bad decisions. If Jameis plays more snaps than we think, than has been indicated, that helps the Falcons' defense, and the Falcons have shown the ability in 2 of the last 3 games to get in the backfield. They've got 3 and 2 sacks in those games. They're turning people over. 3 interceptions, 1 interception. So they've been all right. They've only given up 23, 23, 17, and 27. Now, they aren't great offenses, but is New Orleans a great offense with Taysom Hill or Jameis Winston at quarterback? And I know I'm running into the same problem where I'm using Kamara against the Falcons, but I want that extra $100. And I think the Falcons have a chance, a pretty decent probability of turnovers and pick sixes with Inexperienced quarterback or Jameis Winston. Whoever's behind center is not as good as Drew Brees, and it helps the Falcons defense. Well, if I go down to the Falcons, that brings me back to that $5,700 for Michael Gallup. And I think Gallup has got the target volume and the matchup, and he also has upside because he is getting downfield passes. So if he can catch, even if he has, look, his last game, 6.6 points. Is that great? No. Is it going to break me? Also no. The game before, 7 for 61, 13 is great. He needs 11. So if he can average out where he's at in those 2 games, get me about 10 points, I feel okay. So all things considered, I've got the guys I wanted to lock in. I want to lock in Winston, Kamara, Cook, Johnson, Thomas, Ballage. I kind of wanted to lock in Denver, but again, I'm never going to move off a player I like just to upgrade a defense, particularly within $100. Pittman's a preferred play, so really it came down to just filling in my lineup with Gallup and the Falcons. I got the guys I wanted. I filled in from my player pool. That's the way I think that we should be building cash game lineups. And I think, Jiminy Cricket Steve on my shoulder saying, hey, dummy, take the guys that you like. Take the players you feel strongest about, jam them in, put them into your lineup, get them in there, build around it. You've got a significant player pool. You've got enough players. You've got players at all different price points. Build from there. You might not have the same pool as I do, or you might not have the same guys you feel you need to lock in. Maybe you feel locked in on Taysom Hill, and maybe you don't think Kamara is the guy, and you want to lock in on Keenan Allen, so you're not going to use Ballage. Cool. I still say get your guys, use your pool, fill in from there. If you don't think they're worthy of being in a cash game lineup, don't put them in your cash game pool. I would have used Jakeem Grant or KJ Hamler if I couldn't find a way to get up to Gallup. But I had the Falcons in my pool. I didn't even have Denver in my pool. I realized after the fact that I think Denver does have a decent opportunity as a cash game play, but I got the Falcons in the pool. I had Gallup in the pool, so I was able to make that switch. If I didn't like any other players, then I wouldn't have made that switch. So I think this is how we build a decent cash game lineup, and this is the lineup that I'm going with. Now, I might change my mind, and of course, we'll update you on the live stream tomorrow, 11:30 Eastern. Myself and Gouda take me up to lock, and we'll talk about where my cash game lineup ended up. But right now, Watson, Kamara, Cook, Deontay, Michael Pittman, Michael Gallup, Logan Thomas, Kalen Ballage, and the Falcons defense. Folks, thank you guys for taking the time to watch the video. Please do not forget to like, share, subscribe, click the notification icon so you know when we are posting. We go live every Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern with our NFL kickoff, and we go live every Sunday morning, 11:30 Eastern, live until lock with myself and Michael Gudadero. Also, you can find all of our content at banksterdfs.com. $3.99 a week gets you access to everything we do. All of our articles, all of our player pools, and the best Slack chat in the business. And you can see we cover all the sports: baseball, football, basketball, hockey, soccer, NASCAR, PGA, MMA, college sports, esports, tennis, EuroLeague. We like wrestling. We talk movies. We give you some advice for sports betting, and we talk a lot about sports card collecting. If you're interested in sports, we're the place to be. And for $4 a week, which covers everything, that's not per sport, per article, per whatever. It's one flat rate every single week, $3.99 get you access to all of it. We hook you up at banksterdfs.com. You can find me on Twitter at Bankster17, on Instagram, Bankster_DFS. Guys, enjoy week 17. We're not there yet, guys. Enjoy week 11. Banksterdfs.com. Rock and roll, guys. See you later.